Hi everyone, Robert Studer here from Survival Central with my new project, Science of Survival. Today I'm just going to be doing a wrap-up video on my 3-day hunger experiment that I did a couple weeks back. We compiled all the data, got all the information together. I have an interview with Danica, who's a registered nurse. She's gone over my data and she's going to give her thoughts of where I was physically in regards to blood sugar levels and how I was doing health-wise during the experiment. So we're going to have that in this video. You're also going to be able to find all the data at scienceofsurvival.net. So day one was fairly uneventful. It was I drank a lot of water, drank a lot of chaga tea. That's all I had for the whole day. It wasn't until later on that I started feeling a little bit hungry, where you get the signs of hunger, your stomach starts growling and all that. So it really didn't affect me too badly for one day. So day two, I started getting a little bit more hungry. I started feeling the effects. I started getting a little bit of a headache, even though I was drinking lots. I wanted to do a chaga challenge where it was going to be nothing but chaga tea for the 3 days, but I just couldn't do it. I was just feeling a little bit too hungry. Started getting a headache. Started feeling a little bit lightheaded. So I need a little bit of nutrients. Now, one interesting thing I did find out while I was talking to Danica, our registered nurse on the project, when we hear the word blood glucose regulation or blood sugar regulation of anything, like if you take mushrooms, it'll regulate. If you eat mushrooms, it will regulate your blood sugar. If you eat or drink chaga, it's supposed to regulate your blood sugar. Well, when you think of regulate, or when I think of regulate your blood sugar, means that okay, well, it will stabilize your blood sugar, whether if you're too high in your blood sugar, it will bring it down, or if you're too low, it will bring it up. That's not the case. Chaga works in one way that it will, if your blood sugar is too high, what it will do is it will actually bring it down. So the word regulate kind of doesn't mean what we mean, what we think it means in the case of blood sugar, and that goes for anything that's associated with glucose or blood glucose regulation. If you have a food that's going to regulate your blood sugar, it's either going to regulate it up or it's going to regulate it down. So that is something that I learned that's vital to know, because we hear these catchphrases all the time that if it regulates something, we automatically think that it's going to regulate it. So if it's too high, bring it down. If it's too low, it'll bring it up so that it's always stable. Well, that's not the case, and it's kind of mislabeled a lot of foods that way. So you have to do a little bit of research, and you have to find out in what case what happens. Like if your blood sugar is too low, you have apple juice, and that regulates your blood sugar, so that brings it back up. Where if it's too high, where your body's producing too much insulin, well, then you've got to bring it down, and mushrooms can do that for you. So that's just an example, and I found that absolutely amazing, and something I did not know about blood sugar regulations. So day 3 comes, and that was the hardest day, of course, because I had the most ups and downs in that day. I go through a high where I just had some leafy greens and a couple of berries and feel really good, and then all of a sudden, like, I just crash, and it was up and down, up and down, up and down, and that seemed to be one of the biggest variations in my blood sugar, and seems to be with my heart rate as well. It was quite interesting to see the day 3 and the ketone test. It was the biggest loss that I had. It was in the large amount zone, which was like in the red zone of how much I'm losing in my ketones, which means I'm really, my body's really consuming itself in order to give itself enough calories to even just move and do stuff. It's just amazing what your body does to compensate for the lack of food.
So I'd like to introduce to you the medical arm of the Science of Survival project for the next year. Her name is Danica. She is the camouflage nurse. Her credentials include a BSCN. She is an RN, MA, a GNC, SANE, a Canadian registered nurse, and a medical anthropologist. Thank you so much for your help on this project, Danica. What can you tell me about my baseline readings?
So for here, your baseline, first of all, you've got great, but so you're right at the bottom end of normal. So it's still normal, but it's right at that bottom end. And usually when people, so I asked you to test first thing in the morning because that's when insulin production starts. That's when all the organs start moving, and it's actually after it's called the fasting blood glucose, and that's after a period of time that you haven't had any. So it's how well does your body moderate glucose with none kind of in between. So that's why you do those kind of those first checks. So those for you are still very healthy, and the blood pressure and the heart rate are great.
In your professional point of view, what can one expect doing a challenge like this or going through 3 days without food? What could they expect in regards to their blood glucose and how they would feel?
So you could be like on your day 3 or so, you could have felt pretty good, but you don't realize that you're actually low. And then if you get too low, that's when you start to have neurological changes, because your brain only can consume glucose. So now if your brain is not getting enough glucose, so you're going to get drowsy, unconscious, condition would be have a seizure. But the healthy body works out for your body, and I don't know if you want to go through days or not, the mechanisms that the human body, a healthy human body, goes through to compensate the lack of glucose by using fat.
Now, during this experiment, you had me do a ketone test, which would analyze how many ketones were passing through my urine. What exactly are ketones?
Ketones are the equivalent to lactic acid, where your body runs the Krebs cycle and uses glucose, blah 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 happens, and then you get lactic acid. Ketones is the same. You're going to use your lipids, you're going to use your fat, da 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 happens, and you waste ketones.
Now, I had read that chaga and other mushrooms help regulate your blood sugar. Now, what does that exactly mean? It regulates your blood sugar.
The word regulating usually means either it usually means it's going to keep you, it's not going to allow you to spike your sugars. But it doesn't necessarily mean that if you're low, it's going to bump you up. So it's typically considered in like scientific literature as an anti-glycemic. It's something that's going to.
So in conclusion, 3 days without food, it is a big challenge, especially when there's food around you. I don't think it would be as hard of a challenge if it was a real situation where you had no food and you had no choice. Also, if I had food available to me and I was coming off of 3 or 4 days of not being able to eat or not having food, I would take it a lot slower. I would not rush it the way that I did, just so that I would avoid that blood sugar spike. But also, it just amazed me how fast the human body can rebound off of something like that, and how fast you can recover from many days without food. So, but anyways, this is Robert Suter for Survival Central and my project, Science of Survival. Thank you for watching. See you next time.